Welcome to wrestlecast. This is episode 3. We do have a lot to talk about, a lot of shuffling going on at the WWE. TNA continues to fall in the ratings. Ring of Honor loses 2 of its stars. So let's give it a go. Some of the big news that came out last week were, you gotta talk about the biggest one, and that is the suspension of Roman Reigns for violating the wellness policy. Additional reports have come out lately where Roman Reigns has he was told by Vince McMahon to apologize to the roster, and apparently they weren't going to bring up the Roman Reigns suspension on TV, but apparently Seth Rollins did not get that memo and fully brought it up on Raw, making fun of it. But it's not something you can sugarcoat. You can't not talk about it because all the fans knew about it. It came out, people knew about it. You can't just sugarcoat something that everybody knows about, not just the marks, because everybody knew about it. When I opened up my Facebook, it was on IGN.com, GameSpot, WWE.com. I got messages from all these little different things that don't normally cover wrestling, but Roman Reigns basically being suspended. Well, I talked about it a little bit on video, but I'm just going to reiterate it. It's extremely irresponsible. You were chosen to be the man, even though the fans didn't care for it. You were chosen to be the WWE champion. They pushed you to the moon. They had you win the title at WrestleMania. Okay? They had you go over, be this badass motherfucker, and you do, whether it was steroids, whether it was pills, whether it was drugs, what have you be, you are up here on the list, and you decide to not even acknowledge that and say, hey, I'm going to do this anyways, and then you get suspended. Will he get another spot? I don't know. But I think the right thing to do would be to put Roman at the back of the line, have him work his way back up, and prove that he wants that spot. Because the fans might accept him more if he did that. Jeff Hardy did it when he got suspended. He said, yeah, I did this, but I want to rebuild. And what did Jeff do? He rebuilt. He rebuilt what he was, and he proved to the world that he's a big man for doing it. Now, Roman Reigns got suspended last week. But on Ring of Honor, on Best in the World, it was the last appearance. It was the last pay-per-view appearance for Moose and for Roderick Strong. And then on the tapings, Roderick Strong would lose, and he would go and do a heartfelt speech. I don't know if it's going to show up on TV, but Roderick Strong is walking away from the company, and then this week, photos have surfaced of him and Seth Rollins training together in a gym, and there's big rumors that Roderick Strong is coming to NXT, which I think is perfect for him because he spent so much time in Ring of Honor. Roderick Strong is a great athlete. He's really good, and I think he deserves to get that type of opportunity. NXT is starting to become like where people go that they've crafted themselves long enough and they want to make to the next level. There's a lot. Bobby Roode made his debut on an overseas tour recently. Eric Young was on an episode of NXT. The Mighty 61. Samoa Joe last year. James Storm last year. This year Shinsuke Nakamura, Austin Aries. There's a lot of people that are really pushing to get to that spot. And NXT reminds me of, like, if you want the best roster possible, NXT is kind of becoming that. Because you have your Balors, you have your Nakamura, you have Aries, you have Rude, Roderick's going to be there soon. Hideo Itami, either tonight or last night, returned to the ring after being gone for so long, and Hideo Itami is a freaking legend. There's so much good talent. But then there's rumors that when they do the draft, NXT people are going to get called up. Now, my only problem with that is there's certain... If you pull too much of the talent, you're going to have a watered-down roster. But one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of the people that come from NXT, that are NXT people, can outshine other talents. You look at your Kevin Owens, your Sami Zayns, Cesaro, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, the Wyatts, Big E, Neville. When Balor goes up there, he's going to be a friggin' monstrosity. Finn Balor is a great hand in that ring. There are just a lot of really good, talented people that are in NXT right now, and NXT is like trying to... What they're doing, it reminds me of old school wrestling. They're actually taking the time to build a storyline. Really taking their time. It took a while for them to give Joe the title. It took a while for them to give Balor the championship. They really... Bayley, they gave her a long run with it. When people debut, they really build it up. But then you also got people in there like Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, American Alpha, The Revival. Remember Big Cass and Cass and Enzo came from there. So there's a lot of good stuff. Now, one thing that's got to be brought up is the booking. WWE's booking is like all over the place. Because in one instance they'll make a good booking decision. Like AJ Styles and John Cena, the way that they booked that. But then they'll do something weird like Rusev and Titus are feuding, but on SmackDown they had a Fatal 4-Way with 4 other people. And then Cesaro won and he got beat down, and then he lost in the match. There's a lot of people that, like, they don't book properly, or they make certain tag teams look stupid. The Ascension is one that they've made look stupid. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they've made, as dominant as they were in Japan, they made Anderson and Gallows really watered down really badly. The Corbin and Ziggler feud, which has been going on forever, has been really horrible. I'm just hoping with this draft that they really push it, because there's been rumors that they're bringing back the World Heavyweight Championship. Because if you go to WWE.com, it is no longer called the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It is just called the WWE Championship. So, 2 brands, 2 champions. I hope that they have the Intercontinental Champion on one roster, U.S. Champion on the other. You have The Miz, who is very disappointed as an Intercontinental Champion, especially his first title defense within 30 days, and what they do is have Kane return and wrestle him for it. It was just kind of stupid. I really didn't care for it. I thought it was stupid. I thought it would have been a great opportunity if The Miz is off filming movies for The Miz to go in, defend the title, like have Neville return and give Neville the championship. or Apollo Crews get a title shot. Somebody else. Because they have had the same people feeding over the Intercontinental title forever. And I just think it would be a nice change of pace for them to do that. Or the New Day and the Wyatts could have been good, but I think with them having it be comical, it would have been a way for the New Day to finally take something seriously, but instead they do their funny little shtick trying to make fun of the Wyatts. And I'm like, why? Yes, it'd be cool if the Wyatts took the World Tag Team Championship off of them, but it'd be cool if you had the Wyatts, the Club, and the New Day all feuding, because I think the Club versus the Wyatts would be a good feud. But again, they're booking. What they need to do is less talking in the ring, more matches. It's just like this Divas revolution has become stale. Like, really stale. I'm glad Sasha's back, but for the longest time it's just getting stale. They need something to oomph it up. Maybe bring Asuka in or Nia Jax, or especially since now it's going to be, when they do the draft, the women's division is going to be on 2 brands. I wished it was only on 1 brand, because it would make the women's division more special. I just think what they need to do is take these championships and make them mean something again. They started to do that with the Intercontinental title, and then The Miz got the title, so it went Ambrose is champion. I think is good. Ambrose could be a really good champion. They just have to take the balls and run with it. It's weird to me when everybody says the best champion in WWE is Samoa Joe, because Joe does bring credibility to the championship. I think the tag team titles have lost credibility. The U.S. championship has lost credibility. I really wish they would bring back the hardcore championship and a world television title and a cruiserweight championship. But speaking of cruiserweights, you have the Cruiserweight Classic. Now they introduce everybody that's in the Cruiserweight Classic. They already filmed the spoilers. And yeah, I do read the spoilers. From what I heard, there's a lot of good matches. But in the tournament, they do have, like, Brian Kendricks in there, and Yoshihiro Tajiri, and Kota Ibushi. But one of the people that I'm so happy is in the tournament is Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. is considered one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet, bar none. One of the best. And I really hope that he wins the tournament. It will give him more credibility. And that would be really awesome. There's 32 good cruiserweights from all around the world. They really scour the globe. And it's a 32-man tournament, which means it can take a while, which means it's good exposure, and it's a good way to bring people into the network. But what WWE hasn't realized yet is some people don't view WWE as a promised land. Now, I was watching YouTube, and I found this video, and it was Chris Hero talking about what is he going to do in WWE, because WWE has this attachment to Evolve now, where they're cross-promoting talent, and they said, what are you going to do when they're there? And Chris Hero's response was, on June the 28th, when I win the Evolve Championship, I am going to raise it up in their face. Chris Hero is still bitter. He was dropped out of the company when he shouldn't have been dropped out of the company, but the problem is, since Chris Hero has left, he has become 10 times the wrestler he was. He wrestles for Evolve, he wrestles for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, he wrestles in Japan, he's shown up in Ring of Honor a time or two. I watch Chris Hero's matches, and I consider him one of the best, because he'll pull out moves you don't see that often. He's really good. He's able to wrestle with anybody, and he can make anybody look good. And I love his new thing he's doing. It's the whole, I don't care about being best in the world. I care about being the best of all time. Now, he did a promo at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City where he talks about, hey, best in the world. Daniel Bryan calls himself best in the world. I beat him. CM Punk called himself best in the world and I've beaten him. Which is true, because Chris Hero is an amazing athlete. And I just wish WWE would have saw it before they pushed him out of the company. And it was before NXT exploded. I think if Chris Hero, if they would have kept him a few more months when NXT exploded on the network, he could have been like up here. Which would be good, because I'm not one of those wrestling fans that only watches WWE. I watch WWE, I watch Ring of Honor, I watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, I watch Lucha Underground, I watch Evolve, I watch Evolve/Dragon Gate, I watch Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. If I hear about a match, I'll go and I'll watch it on YouTube. I'll go through any lengths possible to find these matches. Whether it was the controversy with Ricochet and Will Ospreay, which was not a great match, but it was a decent match. I'm not even going to touch on that controversy. That's for other people to talk about, because I guarantee you it's a work between Will Ospreay and Vader. But what I will talk about is Jay Lethal. Now, Best in the World 2016 Ring of Honor's pay-per-view was really, really good. Like, really good. You had great matches. You had a Roderick Strong send-off. You had Carino versus Whitmer. Then you had Kevin Sullivan returning to wrestling. And then after that you had Jay Lethal versus Jay Briscoe, which really responded to everything that you thought it would be. But then at the tapings, you had Kyle O'Reilly versus Jay Lethal for the World Heavyweight Championship. And from that match you had, which was interesting, you had the Bullet Club attack Jay Lethal and shave his head. Now what that does is it really can elevate Adam Cole to a new level. But they shaved his dreads off to try and do something. What I've noticed is when WWE's Bullet Club does something, Ring of Honor's Bullet Club does something too, but really trying to push Jay Lethal to a babyface. Jay Lethal has already held the World Championship for over a year. I don't like super long title reigns, but if they can make it work and have him push with other people, I think it would be really cool. Ring of Honor has a tendency to have some of the best wrestling, bring in new talent, whether it's a Leo Rush, there's like two black guys who act like War Machine, so it's like War Machine versus War Machine. Bobby Fish as the World Television Champion is really good. I think Bobby Fish is one of the top 10 wrestlers. And speaking of that, I'm going to talk about Cody Rhodes. Now, Cody Rhodes, this week, people found out that WWE was trying to talk to him, possibly returning to the WWE a Legends contract so they could still sell his merchandise. I think that Cody made a lot of headways when he started getting booked. He's already been booked to wrestle Kurt Angle, the Battle of Los Angeles, which is like the 0-1 Climax tournament in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's been booked for Evolve, which I hope it's like Cody Rhodes versus Chris Hero. And he got booked for House of Glory, which is Amazing Red's promotion in October. So he's really pushing these bookings. Cody Rhodes is like a completely different animal. It seems like he's more focused on his career than ever before, which is good for Cody to really push through and make it. And I think Cody could do it. I think out of all the people that's been released lately, I don't think Adam Rose is going to make it again. But I think Cody Rhodes, Wade Barrett, and Damian Sandow are all people that are going to make it. Especially Cody Rhodes. But do I want them to go to TNA? Probably not, because in my eyes, TNA is nothing more than a sinking ship. And it's every time I read those results, it just sounds stupid. The show's getting worse and worse. But I think what I've been thinking about stuff lately, going back to the draft, I think one of the reasons why SmackDown's going live, one, is a lot of people don't watch the product because we all know that it's taped on Tuesday. So it's taped. It's not live. We know we can read the results, so we don't have to watch it. So why would we watch it? And I know a lot of people in the wrestling community don't like the IWC. They think all we do is bitch and moan and complain. Well, you see, I don't do a lot of complaining. I do a lot of, this is why I don't like something, and this is what they could do to fix it. Like, my opinion with a lot of the wrestling promotions is you should always have a workhorse championship, and you should have a championship for people that are just starting out. A World Television Championship, a European title, something low budget, low end, so people can work their way up. And the only way for people to actually make it through and get better is if you are to go out there and give these people an opportunity. You don't always need a storyline for every single living character. You could do what WCW used to do and have Villain 05 versus Silver King, have a Chris Jericho versus Six-Pac, have a Dean Malenko versus Jushin Thunder Liger, have an Ultimo Dragon versus a Rey Mysterio. Just have these matches, and the more you have matches, the more exposure people get, and have different matches. Because one of them, been watching wrestling with my girlfriend and my uncle. We always watch wrestling together, and one of the complaints we all always have are, I've already seen this match. Why would I watch this match again? When I can't count how many times since Enzo came back that we've seen Big Cass and Enzo Amore versus the Vaudevillains, or Becky versus Dana, Becky versus Dana, Sheamus versus Apollo Crews, over and over and over and over and over. If you have the same matches all the time, people don't want to watch them. And one of the things that's really missing from wrestling these days is a build-up. Like, if you really look at the past year, what is one match that you said, man, I really got to buy that card because I really want to see these matches. I want to see this match, I want to see this match, I want to see this match. Me personally, last year there's pay-per-views I skipped, and they were free. I don't remember a time on WWE's roster where I was like, you know what, I can't wait to watch these matches because they're going to be amazing. Because most of the time there'll be like a count out, an interference, a disqualification, and the matches just aren't what they used to be. Like, it'd be cool for you to have different things going on. Like, Michael had a good idea. What happened if you teamed Big Cass with Baron Corbin? Because Corbin could really could really work with Cass, and he could brush off on the skills, and Corbin could be more of the badass dude, like the Skyscrapers. I really think you should bring back some of the old school managers. They could really bring a nice little flair to the show. But if you look back at the 80s, let's look at the 80s, and then we'll look at the 90s. In the 80s, you had different matches a lot of the time. Like, you would see, like, the Powers of Pain work with Demolition, and they'd wrestle Power and Glory, and they'd wrestle Strike Force, and they'd wrestle the Mega Powers, or you'd have the Road Warriors wrestle the Koloffs, and then you'd have them wrestle the Midnight Express, and then you'd have them wrestle the Fantastics. And you really had a variety of matches. You didn't have the same matches all the time. Even in the 90s, you would have, like, Austin would fight Rock, then he would fight Triple H, and then he would fight Kurt Angle, and then he would fight The Undertaker. Even, like, the tag teams would be different. It's not, repetition can kill a company. When you do this match and this match over and over and over and over again, it gets stale, because there was a time where people got tired of the same people going for the championship all the time. But I also think if you have workhorse people in there, something to change it up, like if you were to take the Intercontinental Championship off The Miz, this is fantasy booking all the way, and if you were to put it on like an Adrian Neville, then you could have matches like Neville versus Sami Zayn, Neville versus The Miz, Neville versus Cesaro, and versus Kalisto, and versus Sakara, and versus Darren Young. If you change it up a little bit, it would really work well. But they don't do that. They stick to, we just want to have these core people, because if you don't know this, there's 75 to 100 people on that roster, and half of them don't ever get a shot on TV, an opportunity. Like, in order for you to see some of these guys, which is what I used to do years ago, is you have to watch your main event, you have to watch your superstars. I used to watch Jacked, Sunday Night Heat, Velocity. Even further back, I used to watch Shotgun Saturday Night, because periodically they would have wrestlers that were really good, but they were like their developmental talent. Like, I remember back in 2001, 2002, seeing Bobby Roode on there a couple times before TNA scooped him up. I remember watching AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose when he was Jonathan Moxley. I saw Kurt Angle's first match, and it wasn't his debut. It was actually, he wrestled S.A. Rios. You see a lot of people, like everybody that thought like Raven, what people don't know is Raven actually had this really cool storyline that was completely different on Sunday Night Heat, where he actually, every week he would talk about a sin, and he would break somebody's finger, and it was completely weird. And it went from week to week, and then out of nowhere, because they killed the storyline, because they had Raven beat Dreamer, so he could be back on Raw. But what would have been cool if they would have let him continue that storyline, or I don't know, do that storyline on Raw. There's a lot of stuff like that they did on Sunday Night Heat. You had people that actually, you had your Al Snows and your Taz and your Steven Richards that were always on there. But then you have new talent periodically on there. And I think what people just don't realize is there's so much untapped potential, so many good talents. Like, I implore people to go to your indie shows, because on the indie shows you'll get to see these people busting their ass to make you have the best wrestling match possible. And I've seen that before. I've seen dark matches that were really good on shows. I remember seeing Samoa Joe way before the public did. I was like 17 or 18, and I saw him at an indie show, and it was really cool to see Samoa Joe. Hell, I have a picture on my Facebook from when AJ Styles, Jesse Neal, Brother Devon, among others, were at a TNA show here in Kent, Washington. So I live in Washington, and you could actually legitimately meet the wrestlers. So I got to talk with AJ Styles, and he may not remember that, but to me that was awesome. As somebody that loves the business as much as I do, anybody that knows me, I eat, sleep, breathe wrestling. I consume as much knowledge as I can. I watch tapes as much as I can. I fantasy book wrestling as much as I can. I have 4 binders, multiple things. I love creating wrestling. And I don't think, like, Vince really understands. I don't think Dixie Carter really understands. But you really have to go through that extra mile. Have those good matches. Because Vince says that the wrestling fans don't matter, the ratings matter. And now it's the ratings don't matter because he is the WWE Network. But if you don't have those really good matches, then it's pointless to really do anything. Because people will always remember those amazing matches that they saw. People still talk about Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage. People still talk about Hogan and Andre. People talk about Bret and Shawn. People talk about Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. People talk about the Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express. People just talk about CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan. Ring of Honor fans still talk about Kevin Steen versus Davey Richards, Davey Richards versus Eddie Edwards, Punk versus Joe, Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson, Tyler Black versus Roderick Strong, Aries and Joe, everything. You gotta have those matches out there to really make the fans appreciate what you want, how good it is. And I implore anybody that really wants to learn about wrestling is to go to your Fred Meyers or your Walmart and look for this magazine. It's called Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and they are not owned by WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor, so they say what's on their mind. A lot of them don't. But if you really want a really good magazine, I implore you to read that one, because it will really push to another level. Well, it's been wrestlecast. I got a couple things off my chest, but I am going to, in the next episode, I'm going to show you some of my fantasy booking and tell you a little bit of the inside of how long I've done it and everything. So, I will see you next week for episode 4 of WrestleCast.